All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final refrain. I would love to say this is our first match of the season, but we did actually have one get snuck in there earlier today. I will not spoil what happened, but that was Karen versus Holy Stew, and fantastic set of matches or games. I will try to get that uploaded soon here, but we were not able to actually cast that one live, unfortunately. But we did get it recorded, and so we'll have to do some voiceover for that, but definitely be on the lookout for that. Instead, we've got match number 2, still going to be a fantastic one. We've got Matze51 versus Quickdraw3457. Two amazing players. Can't wait to see what happens in this matchup. So let's get into our players and the decks. First of all, Matze coming in from Germany. Again, Archon runner-up multiple times, been in some of our other Final Refrain events, very skilled player, Chortzard being a very storied deck as well, but no stranger to adaptive. So excited to see what he brings here. Again, both of these decks that we're going to see as well are going to be a surprise for both players. No one knows, all of it is hidden until we basically start this stream. Second up, we've got Quickdraw3457 of Sloppy Lab Work fame. This is one of the Kagi organizers. Huge adaptive proponent. Very skilled player at it as well. As we can see from the achievements, won the Kagi season several times. Been playing adaptive in KTL as well. This dude knows his adaptive and is on the DT hype train. If anyone is a DT best set, this is one of those folks. Specifically, beyond DT even is his love for Whirlpool. We'll see if we see one of those tonight or not. You never know. There's a good chance he's bringing in DT, but you never know if it's going to be a Whirlpool or not. So let's get into these decks. On Matze's side, we've got Gardner, the moderator of Chikol. This is a Worlds Collide deck, so not one of the AoA decks that Matze is famous for loving. He's a AoA proponent, almost as much as Quickdraw is a DT proponent. But this one's very interesting, and we've seen some actually very successful Winds of Exchange adaptive decks. Again, Fabulousing playing one of those through most of our pod phase this season as well. You can do some really fun stuff. We do see some interesting cards in here. Cursed Relic is one, so knowing if there are ways to get that out of your hand and how to do that and planning ahead to make sure you can do that can be really important, but that also means this deck is going to be going fast. We got 28 Amber, okay Amber control, still middle of the road as far as Assassin goes, but double Rogue Operations is going to be pretty strong there. FOF transponder is interesting, and it doesn't look like we got the token. Unfortunate, but that's okay. These again were put together very fast. These cards were put together very fast by Judo. Thank you so much, Lord Judo, for putting these together. They make this whole production look so much better. But we'll find out what the token is when we get in there. The Mars though, I always love. Oh, it's a Blorb Hive. It's got Blorbs in it. That's why. So this is a Blorb Hive deck. Double Mars needs Amber is actually really scary with Blorbs, especially with the Rebels, because instead of going for the Blorb Hive key, you can just run your Blorbs into your opponent and steal a ton of Amber. This looks like a super fun deck. Blorb Hive, always a good time. It's going to depend on if Quickdraw is bringing any artifact control or not. Could be really interesting. Yeah, we got some dedicated folks in here. You all are up late. On the other side, Quickdraw is bringing, probably not too much of a surprise for people, but Guadalupe, the periodically spiky. This is what he listed as his favorite deck when we were doing our player profiles and the kickoff. It's a awesome DT deck. Very interesting stuff here, especially with the artifacts, what it's trying to do with Alpha Device, Static Collection Array, Tide Warp, Mecha Buoy, Hydro Cataloger. All of that makes this deck really tricky to play against and play. You have to know when you can go for the Data Forge or not, when the final analysis is worth it or not, and then when to really just start going for it with the Untamed, because this Untamed is super bursty and you can just get behind real fast if it gets going. So let's take a look at our matchup really quick here. Again, kind of went through a lot of these cards already, but the token generation is something we didn't talk about too much in Matze's deck. There's a ton of it with the double outpost there. No puzzling trinket in this one. Oh, there is a puzzling trinket. Did I miss that? Puzzling trinket is always a super super interesting card in here as well. Creature control is super low on both of these, so we could just see some big boards, but I think that's going to be pretty good for Matze's deck to not see too much creature control coming against it. Both of these decks are very fast, though, with that 28 Amber. No artifact control on Quickdraw's side, but on Matze's side, what else is there besides the uncommon currency? If that's the only one, that's not going to be... it'll make things interesting, especially with those tied specific ones, but I think they've got our game up. Let me hop in there and let me switch us over to this match. Let's see. Matze did make the lobby, so we got them on bottom, so we are correct there. Should be good to go. Again, for anyone who is newer to Adaptive, the way this is going to work is these players are going to play the decks we just saw. They're just going to play them outright in Archon in game 1. Game 2, they will swap decks. So I'm not going to change it on the screen because that's just going to be too much work to keep up with that. But Quickdraw will be playing the Winds of Exchange deck, and then Matze will be on the DT deck. And then after game 2, either one player has won twice or one deck has won twice. And if a deck has won twice, they will go on to game 3, where they will bid chains on the winning deck for who gets to play it. So that chains are going to be sort of a handicapping mechanic. So you have to know how much better was that deck, or was that deck even better at all. So very, very fun. And again, both of these players are going to be great at this. So very excited to see how this goes. Got to start off with some jibes here. And I did notice, so when I was recording the other game, TCO has changed the format or the layout a little bit, where there's basically this large black bar. So we're going to need to change our background a little bit, but haven't had time to do that. But it's a little bit sad that they're covering stuff up. And that's because of the prophecies now take up so much space on there. I think they just sort of allocated this whole space to all those extra cards. But it just means that our backgrounds are a little bit trickier to get exactly the right size. So we'll work on that. But for this one, just bear with me. Other important note, we are playing Kagi rules for Adaptive, which means the same deck will be going first each round. It doesn't matter who wins each round. Normally in normal Archon, player who lost game 1 would get to pick who goes first game 2. This one is just whichever deck goes first is always going first. And we do that because of the implications it has to the chain bidding. Going first is a little bit better usually when you have chains on the deck, because you get to see an extra card on that first turn. This... I've not seen a whole lot of DT decks in Final Refrain. All right, so we're getting the banter out of the way. These players, I think, have played each other a decent amount. Guadalupe is the DT deck that is going to be going first. We got that up top for quick draw. And then on the bottom, we've got Gardener for Matze. Oh, and I see... no time limit was added. I doubt it'll matter with these decks, but I will probably have them put that on for later matches. All right, quick draw with the ever intimidating Flumph, turn 1. So much of this, especially in Adaptive, I feel like when you're using some of these sort of mid-rangey decks, Handcrafting is obviously an important thing in Archon as well, but you have a lot more tools to sort of really negate the need for a lot of handcrafting. But in this especially, and it's one of the reasons why people like, especially like AOA for adaptive, is handcrafting is so important for really getting the most out of that deck to be able to pull out a win with it, because sometimes you just have to take some bad turns to really get the good ones. We're going to get to see that a lot more than we saw in the Archon and Alliance, where those decks are just a lot more tuned. They don't really take bad turns. Here, we're going to see some. So, very interesting thing from Matze here already, playing Gizrahi Blacksmith. This is widely known as one of the worst cards in the game. But when you're going to be making blorbs all the time, it can be really interesting. Decides to just go for the card draw here. Quick draw always going to be getting a card draw off of this and getting that first advantage because it came down on Matze's turn. But we do see Matze just coming down with a little bit more Mars here, getting the Mesmerist down for some Amber control and just a big body. Again, neither of these decks have much creature control. Quick draw's biggest one being the infighting, but also having the Thin the Herd, which could actually be not too bad here. Quick draw does get the Mecha Buoy down, so that's kind of artifact number one in this chain of artifacts. Not really doing anything yet because the tide has not been taken. Trying to remember, I don't think there's a ton of tide razors in Quick Draw's deck. I'd have to look for a little bit. There's the two Technobabbles, I guess. Or Biome Discovery. Technobabble doesn't it? Tide Warp is kind of the big one. That's when things start getting crazy. All tied up. Okay, so there are a couple of those common actions. But you know what? Both players might just leave it here. This might just be here the whole game, and we just have 7-card hands the whole game. Because no one wants to get rid of it at this point. Okay, so we see the FOF transponder going down. This again is going to be, this creature gains destroyed, make a token creature and attach FOF transponder to that. So with those little blorbs, this is just going to basically make it so you almost always have a blorb on the board until you run out of deck or it gets bounced. Again, Quick Draw does have the all tied up, or the Thin the Herd, so it does have a chance to get rid of this. But if he doesn't, this could set up just a chain of blorbs really fast. Okay, so Quick Draw taking the tide manually there is going to be on 3 chains because of that, but gets that static collection array down, gets a Technobabble down for some stun, so he might just be content to never really touch these creatures and just let them say they're stunned until Matze tries to get him unstunned. But a nice burst there in Starlines, getting some reaps and getting up to check. And then again, kind of sneaky in a couple ways. He's going to get an extra Amber at the start of turn because of Mecha Buoy, and his current key cost is only 5 because of the static collection array. So this is a point where if you're Matze, you really have to decide if it's worth it to take the tide here. It's hard though, because again, we've seen, well, we will see probably, this deck is very fast. We still haven't seen the Chelonia or the double Deepwater Gruins, so taxing every key can be almost more important than giving yourself chains, yeah, especially when you've got the blacksmith down. Again, maybe this is Matze's strategy, is this negates the chains a little bit. Even though it helps Quick Draw, it does make it a little bit less painful to take those manually every once in a while. Steady Blade, welcome in. First time chatter here, and predict Guadalupe win at least 2 matches. You think that's the better one here? Interesting. The Mars, once it gets going, could do a lot of damage here. Both of these decks are going to be wanting a decent amount of creatures on the board. And now we do have some of that artifact control as well. So this uncommon currency could actually swing this game a decent amount depending on what you hit with it. Because like if you take Mecha Buoy, then Quick Draw basically has to give you an Amber every turn if he wants to have... Oh wait, no, that's not how it works. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as big of a deal, because Quick Draw is still going to have the ways to get the tide back. But we'll see what happens here. We do have our first Blorb on the ground. Again, Blorb is a 1-power elusive, cannot reap creature, but this comes with a artifact that allows you to key cheat if you destroy enough Blorbs on your turn. Quick Draw does get that key for the 5 Amber, so already starting the turn on 3 and gaining several more here. We see that Deepwater Gruin coming down again for no penalty because he has the tide, and a really big turn of just dumping some untamed creatures here. Witch of the Dawn, grab the Flume back. Okay, it's nothing too crazy. And this Talmage is actually getting tons of value. having this Teresa on it just means he can use it in any turn as long as it's got neighbors from each house, and it's got the stunner on there as well. Chooses not to. What did he do with it there? Okay, so stunned over here again. Yeah, this could be end of this game. We could see tons of chains getting racked up because you just quick draw basically gets into like a checkmate unless you take chains every turn with this artifact setup, which again is going to make it really interesting to see what Matze decides to do. I think you take the Mechabooey over the static collection ray because the collection ray will just tax you without a way to get it back down. The Mechabooey at least stops quick draw from getting that amber every turn. Starlion's turn here. We do get the Rogue Ops for some steal, so going up to 6 and check here, but does discard the Blorb Hive and one of those Mars Needs Ambers. Those Mars Needs Ambers, I think, are going to be pretty important amber control here. Does have to take the Tide there, though, so up to a couple chains there on Matze's side, but does stop the key that turn. But, I mean, Quick Draw has got 5 untamed creatures on the board, is taxing this key for 2, so no check yet for Matze. Yeah, we see him go right back into Untamed here. Does just take the Tide again. Quick Draw not scared at all about getting those chains, especially with Gizrahi still on the board. Oh, I missed that. Did it only steal the one? It did. Good catch. Yeah, only stealing one is not what you wanted there. Oh, and there's the Thin the Herd, which only hits Matze's board. We get the extra power coming down on the Mookling, and then that second Deepwater Gruin. So, Guadalupe showing its teeth here. This is a lot of burst coming out. And what's crazy is if you deal with all of this, then it's just a bunch of amber control in the logos. So this is going to be quite the uphill battle. We do see an Equidon call here. What do we have? Could see the closed door negotiation. It's a little bit brutal to give quick draw that much draw, but you just might have to do something here. Blacksmith staying on the board. Unstunning. We do see, yep, the Mechabooey getting stolen there by the uncommon currency. It feels not good for Matze here, right? Especially knowing this Mookling is going to tax. So he gets up to 10 with the closed door, but this Mookling going to tax that. Ooh, does trade secret for another 3. So actually pretty big steal there, and only putting quick draw up to a hand of 8. He was at 5 because of the chains, so this is still going to be bad, and you still haven't dealt with the board, right? Like, is kind of the problem. And didn't take the Tide either, so quick draw still gets that key at 5. Why did Matze get a amber from Mechabooey? Oh, it's each player's turn. Man, I need to brush up on my DT. It's been a while. Okay, we see quick draw just go for the final analysis there, drawing a massive hand. So this could be, yep, just the Data Forge for the win. Pretty fast and crazy game 1. Let's see, and let me get my logs because we are back on that train. But that is a fast game 1 going to quick draw. Let me update our score here. Yeah, we need to make a new room if we're going to get the timer on there. So Matze's deck has creature control of 2. And quick draws has a creature control of 5. So, but I think we didn't really see kind of the Blorb Swarm come out. I think if you can get that early, then you start doing some interesting stuff. But yeah, the lack of creature control is going to be very, very interesting, especially for game 3. When you have chains against something with low creature control, you mulligan pretty hard for like at least 3 creatures, and then you kind of just tell them to deal with it. All right, let's see if they did the same password. Sweet, that makes it easy. Photon Blast, Pyro, and Belligerent Guard. Yeah, that's not C. those are your backup C to what should be some bigger things. But we'll see what Quick Draw makes of it. You do have the double rebels in there, which can let you do some extra fighting, especially if you have the pyro down on something. Crash Muldoon can come in ready and fight technically. But also Puzzling Trinket. If you do get the Puzzling Trinket down, that can get you some damage pips, but then you're losing the Amber race, especially against a deck that is as fast as Guadalupe. All right. So we get the SV3 Lander coming down. I don't think that's a huge one in this match. Blorb's not really wanting to do much except fight. Matze burning the infighting really fast here, though, and doesn't kill anything. Just puts the 1 damage on Pyro. That's pretty big. If Matze doesn't quite get more of a board going, I guess Guadalupe does have the Technobabbles, and I think the Technobabbles are actually pretty good into this. But we do see several Untamed Creatures coming down, as well as the Fittest going down to make everything real big. Yeah, TCO, the way that TCO does left to right is not quite intuitive with how it works on tabletop. But yeah, if you're going to get rid of it anyways, you might as well play it for the damage instead of just discarding it. But it is a little surprising, but maybe not too crazy. We still have Thin the Herd, 2 Technobabbles, and the Final Analysis. So based on last game, infighting maybe not the most important to hold, especially when you're going to get your own big board going. Okay, we see Rogue Operations also only stealing 1, hitting 2 Star Alliance cards there. One of them being the Ganymede Outpost, which we did not get to see in last game either, but this can be a huge tempo card if you can get it down and using. But we just see that Pyro fight in to do some damage, and that's it. And now we've got some speed and taxing coming down with a double eddy, and then the Talmage Steelheart coming down with 3 extra power. Nova Archaeologist could just archive the infighting there. Goes for the Mookling instead. Okay, so wants to have that tax just in case there's something big coming. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it didn't even kill anything here, that was very, very tough. And there was only 1 Amber to steal, right? Matze has not really been generating Amber. Neither player has. So it really didn't matter a whole lot. But I mean, if you have to take an awkward Star Alliance turn like that, you're probably pretty happy to hit 2 Star Alliance with the Rogue Operations so that you're not drawing into more Star Alliance and getting that just horrible 2/2/2 going on forever. We do see the auction off there hitting the SV3 Lander for some extra Amber. Ornate Talking Tray coming down, and then Envoy and a Blorb. Getting to 5, nowhere near check because of the current taxing situation of double eddy, but yeah, this might be tough just to get those off the board. We'll see if we start seeing some more of that Untamed. No, goes for Star Alliance. This could be another situation where you get a Teresa on one of these and just start doing some nasty stuff. We do get the free Tide Rays with the Biome Discovery, and then that Static Collection Array coming down, going to be making those keys cheaper. Teresa goes on the Talmage, so just going to copy exactly what Quickdraw did. Doesn't want to get too fancy with it. I'd be pretty tempted to put it here and just start archiving stuff every turn. It could be pretty nasty. Xeno Training, going to do some Amber control there, just capturing 2 and a pass. So still not at check, only at 3 Amber there. But kind of balls in Quickdraw's court to deal with this board. See what he can do. Oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed that the chats weren't going on screen. They should be up there now. I had to change everything for the kickoff stream, but we're back. All right. So Quickdraw back into Star Alliance here, having to do another Rogue Operation and still only stealing 1. Discarding Blorb Hive and Ixal the Iron Captain. So just the worst luck for both of these players on those. But that Photon Blast gets more damage down. And again, we have a big spread of damage here, this is one of the things that Matze was not able to do. And now those Mars Needs Ambers get way scarier because your own creatures start capturing all of your Amber with all this damage on them. So we'll see if Matze decides to actually just kind of run some of his creatures into quick draws just to get rid of the damage. Because, I mean, this is pretty scary here. The only thing that makes it less scary is that once they all have captured Amber on them, Quickdraw doesn't have a way to kill them. Like, there's one thing with this deck. It's like, yeah, you've got the double Mars needs Amber. You got lots of ways of damaging stuff. How do you actually get that Amber off of those creatures? Because you're not killing creatures. Mechabooey comes down, so we've got two of the big artifacts on the board now. Theory Conjecture doing some archiving, making those keys cost way more. Novu is ready to archive something, goes for the fittest, so just wants to make creatures bigger and bigger, make it really hard for Quickdraw to take them off the board, and then just going to reap out here. Getting to check, key cost only 5 because of the static collection array. And the sneaky extra amber from the Mechabooey is always a threat. Yeah, I just get a reap there as well. So we'll see if Matze has one of the, or Quickdraw has one of the Mars needs ambers here. Maybe a rebel as well to clean up some of the board afterwards. Goes Star Alliance, man. So we're really just trying to get all the Star Alliance out of hand. Crash Muldoon is going to come down ready, going to be able to do something. I don't know if you just fight with the Envoy here or you do Specialist Guthrak. It's a fun one to try and say when your mouth is floy. Does have an Amber Pit, but not going to be able to fight this turn. We do see, yeah, Crash using the Envoy to fight something. I don't know. Probably the Novu. You got to kind of shut down some of that archiving. Yeah, it does raise the tide, but again, that starts the chains as well. So if you've already been on awkward hands for like trying to get rid of all that Star Alliance and stuff, the chains just make it that much worse. Decides to take out one of the eddies. So still not in check, even though you're on 7. Still have to deal with one more eddy. But now it's kind of in Matze's court to deal with this board and take the tide back. All right, and they're all tied up. So again, second free tide raise for Matze, which is even better than what Quickdraw had last time. And Quickdraw won with this deck pretty handily in game 1. So now with no chains either, we'll see what this deck can do. We do see the Chelonia coming down along with double Deepwater Gruan for a nice burst of Amber, and the Moogling coming down. And then we do still have some nice fighting here. Fittest making everything massive. And then this Meliope is just going to, it's going to do some work against this board, having Skirmish and Enraging everything here. Which I guess the Guthrak kind of wants to fight anyways, but yeah, pretty brutal. Brutal turn. Going up to 17 Amber. Key cost is only 5. We'll see if Quickdraw found the closed door here. We have not seen that, but you never know if that's been tokenized. That's the worst feeling when something like this happens and you're just staring at the underside of your token, just like, why? I've only made 2 tokens this game. How is one of them the only card that helps me here? For more of that, check out some of my games. Happens too much. Realizing I never stopped my timer from game 1, and we're still not even halfway of where we would have been in game 1. So players are playing fast, which is good. All right, we got Blorb fighting in, doing some damage. Makes it seem like maybe a Mars needs Amber, but no, it's Blorb Hive coming down. Ironic's Banner doesn't do hardly anything in this deck. You have Ixal the Iron Captain, and then the Rebels, I think, are the only things that's kind of buff. Another Blorb fighting in here. Again, just spreading out that damage. Fights into Witch of the Dawn. And there's the Mars needs Amber. Double Mars needs Amber. So dropping 12 Amber onto Quickdraw's creatures. But again, how do you now get that Amber? All tied up Binding Irons with an Amber icon. Basically. Does get the check though on 9 here. Taking the tide again, so going to keep having to chain himself to keep Quickdraw from getting a key there, because Quickdraw would have still gotten the key. Or sorry, Matze. Keep thinking Quickdraw's got the DT deck still. So you've held it off for a turn. Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy that that might not be enough? But that's just, again, where this deck, how do you get that Amber now? You have, I mean, a little bit of fighting power here. You could get your Belligerent Guard down too. But you have to deal with the taxing stuff first. Like it's not just getting the amber off these creatures, it's killing the right ones first so you can actually forge, and all the while you're not dealing with the Chelonia, which is just going to burst like crazy still. What it does do though is really stop, well, I mean it doesn't. If Matze gets to key 3 or gets 2 keys forged, then it doesn't really stop the data forge or the, what is it? Final analysis data forge play. You just can't do that until you're ready to forge your last key, because otherwise you give quick draw a bunch of amber by destroying all these creatures. Matze is going to take some time to think about it, though. It has changed things a little. See if it was enough. Go Starlines, so this could be a bunch more creatures here. I think that was most of the Tide Raisers now. All tied up. Biome Discovery. There's a Technobabble for some stun. And a second one, so getting those biggest creatures that are the fighting threats. Gets a stunner on the Deepwater Gruin. Cheetah comes down, giving elusive to this Mookling, so making it even that much harder to fight off. Except it doesn't have elusive unless you take the Tide back here, which it does. So probably going to see the Tide going back and forth a lot here. You got it right at the end, but that would have been rough. Quickdraw does get key 1 though here, so not quite out of it yet. We get some Mars play really quick here. Which is interesting because we just saw a lot of Mars cards played, so can't have too much more in hand when you're already got a lot of chains on you as well. There's a few more Blorbs coming down from the Blorb Hive. Mesmerist comes down. So this is where you just try to make enough Blorbs that they can just fight into stuff. Missed one amber on the Chelonia. Yeah, good call. Should have raised the Tide before playing the Cheetah. Okay, so you got a ready Blorb and a ready Mesmerist. What do you fight here? Eddie is probably one of them. Oh, going for the Chelonia first. All right. Did he... Where... Did I miss a fight? Oh, yeah, there's already a fight into the Chelonia. I was like, how'd the elusive go? So getting rid of the Chelonia. And then putting more damage into the Novu Archaeologist. But Matze does get that key 1, already sitting on 4. Quick Draw not taking the Tide that time to try and at least tax. And then we get the Untamed turn here. This is going to be a lot of reaping. And then this Stunner being on the Deepwater Gruin is going to be pretty nasty. Ooh, fights. Yeah, so fights off the Mesmerist and is now going to stun Crash Muldoon, which is kind of the biggest fighter. And then a few more reaps going up to 8. Oh, and that Thin the Herd. Just brutal. All the Blorbs gone. We blorbed for a second or two. Did not last long. And then the Cheetah, or the Flume coming down at the end there. Tough spot if you're quick draw. Again, you can kind of do the same closed door thing. Trade secrets and closed door are both gone, so never mind. You do not have many options at this point if you're quick draw. Does get the Puzzling Trinket down, which can do some stuff, as well as the Uncommon Currency. But it's looking rough. Okay, destroys the Envoy to make 2 Blorbs here. And then raises the Tide. So it is going to be a 7 amber key cost for Matze here. But starting on 3 and a massive board of stuff to use. Gonna be tough. Chain predictions, 8? Man. After this morning's game, I don't think I'm a good chain bidder. I was very wrong about what the chains maybe would or wouldn't have been if that had gone to game 3. Yeah. 6 to me feels a little bit low just because there's so much taxing in Guadalupe as well that even if this does get ahead on board, you're just going to burn so much amber before the end of the game. And that gets you efficiency too, right? With like the eddy and stuff, you're getting more archiving and things. But if this gets enough blorbs fast enough, it could be really tough. Except one infighting just clears an entire board of blorbs, right? Okay, so we see an untamed turn there, just reaping out, getting up to 8 with the tide. I don't know that Quickdraw has too many more options. I think both the rogue ops are gone. Your closed door is gone. Your trade secrets is gone. Recorded history could capture with the pip with the puzzling trinket. Need to capture 2 here. Does not go for the capture. We do see that cursed relic there, which again, with the chains already happening from having to take the tide, if you have a cursed relic in hand for a couple, that's also brutal, which is again where like if that gets in hand, like turn 1 in the next game, 5 chains, 8 chains don't really feel like that much because you are also chained. And there's not a ton of ways of getting rid of it. We saw the trade secrets and we see the recorded history, and then we've got the old tinker. So there are a couple, but those are not easy to use. Except for I guess 2 of them are easy to use. Tinker's not, though. But that is just one of those factors, even though it's not the deck that's getting chains, knowing that you could end up with that cursed relic in hand turn 1 is scary. Okay, so we see the Novu Archaeologist finally getting taken off the board, getting a little bit more amber. Matze is down to 6 amber here with the captured amber on the blorbs. Quickdraw not quite getting to, well, it wouldn't have been check anyways with the eddy still. Or not the eddy, the Mookling is what's taxing right now. Has 4 blorbs on the board, you know, for what that's worth. So this is where Matze could probably go for the final analysis. I don't know why I can't remember. I keep wanting to call it final refrain for obvious reasons. It's final analysis. Data Forge, but just goes for the Untamed turn here. Gonna fight some stuff off, make that Mookling even bigger with the Flumph ability. Yeah, I don't know that's really even hardly worth fighting into these too much. Because if you're not going to fight all of them off, then it doesn't really matter because you can still capture all of it onto 1. Final analysis is Snoopy's job. This is accurate. I love it. All right. Reaping up to 11 here. Nice, easy check. Key cost currently 5. Quickdraw not getting a key here, even though he's on 6 amber because of the Mookling. So Quickdraw has flipped the deck, so could have drawn into something, but also on a 4-card hand because of the amount of chains he's had to take. Can't be too many good options. I mean, really, even closed door isn't great because it makes the Data Forge that much easier. But if it's your only out, kind of have to go for it. The nice thing is with the Puzzling Trinket now, you actually get to steal a little bit more because you get to, well, I guess you could like draw or do a damage instead of gaining the amber. There's a closed door. Only brings Matze down to 8, so gonna need a little bit more. See if he's got some more pips for capture. Plays the blacksmith with the amber pip on it. Does capture 1 amber. Taking Matze down to 7. Uses the guard to fight the Mookling, which is sadly behind elusive because of this cheetah. Yeah, no, this will be a tough one to do stats on. We'll just kind of see. We'll see what the week looks like and kind of figure out what makes sense to put together. We got the logs, though. All right, and there is Matze taking game 2. So we are going to game 3. After game 1, looked pretty likely, but you never know. This will be very interesting, though, to see what happens with the chain bidding. All right, let me update our scoreboard here while they make the next game. We are at 1-1, which again means we are going to be bidding chains on Guadalupe, the DT deck, for who gets to play it. The person who brought the deck, which is Quickdraw, does an automatic first bid of 0 chains. So basically, Matze gets the first real bid at whatever chains he chooses. Sorry, they made this password too complicated. And in this format as well, you can actually go beyond 24 chains. The limit used to be 24 chains, which gets you down to a 2-card hand. Maybe it's 25 as the first breakpoint of getting down to a 2-card hand. I think that might be right. But TCO can handle as many chains, and they're bidding chains fast. So Matze goes 1, Quickdraw goes 2, Matze's back on 3. So they're not doing like the big jump. Everybody's got their own different chain bidding strategies, and it's different if you're in person because you get to see the person sweat. Matze skipping 5 though. So funny. Somebody skipped. Well, yeah, it's funny that they just skip one number. Some people just have numbers they don't like. 6 chains or 7 chains is really kind of that first major breakpoint where you will have 2 less cards on your next turn or on your first turn instead of 1. Quickdraw jumping again up to 8. Depends who you ask, I think, Captain Gale. People feel strongly about their chain bids. All right, we are up to 9, so we've almost hit our highest prediction 10. I think I could go 10 or 11 pretty easily on this one. I just don't think there's enough tools, especially with the key cheat being in Guadalupe. Goes to 9. Too much already, you think? So Quickdraw passes it. So Matze will be playing Guadalupe on 9 chains. Matze will be going first. Now we get to see what happens with these mulligans. This is where things can get real interesting. That's, of course, on a 5-card hand. If he mulligans, this will go down to a 4. And both players not mulliganing is pretty interesting. Matze finding the theory of conjecture turn 1, though, so that's already a couple chains shed. Quickdraw, very fast turn into Mars here, getting the generator down and the banner and the blorb and the rebel. Holy cow. Quite the start there. Can't actually reap with those, so doesn't gain a lot of amber, but does get a lot of this artifact pressure going. Matze finds the Technobabble, though, to stun all of those. Also the Biome Discovery to take the tide and get the Ulfbert device down. So we haven't seen Ulfbert device in any of these games yet. It is a very interesting one that's going to force players to play a different house each turn, and man, is Quickdraw flying here. But seeing all these artifacts early for a Quickdraw is really, really big. That's going to give so much efficiency kind of in the later game, and the ability to just repopulate this board anytime it gets blown up. Yeah. Oh, the Thin the Herd there, though, is a very nice. Well, again, kind of like you said, it's a lot of cards that don't really do a whole lot. So it's good, but it's also not great. But if you can get the Blorb Hive keys going, this one does not purge itself. So it is possible to get multiple keys off Blorb Hive. It destroys itself, but you can get it back with destroying your own Blorb. So if you can get to that critical mass, it becomes much more of a threat. Both players are playing fast here, though, so I'm trying to keep up. We do get the closed door coming down from Quickdraw, as well as the Belligerent Guard, and plays the Grisarahi Blacksmith, because why not at this point? Fighting off the Mookling there. Getting to check, and then destroying that Blacksmith with the Blorb Hive to get some extra Blorbs on the board. Yeah, good call, good call. That's what you should do. with it. Ooh, Matze getting the submersive principle with the tide raise, so there's going to be half amber gone from both players. Right, I should have just kept the timer going, but I stopped it. Why did I do that? We can go back and see what their full time was. Oh, Bilge Warden. We also didn't see that, so actually giving up the tide there, but playing the Tide Warp. Tide Warp is one of the trickier ones to know whether it's correct to play or not. But because... Yeah, that's really tough. Because now, if you play the Static Collection Array and it gets stolen, things get trickier. Right? If any of your artifacts get stolen now, it gets trickier. So you kind of have to hope that that uncommon currency gets tokenized. But we'll see how it goes. Again, this is one of those cards where like my skill with DT goes downhill real fast. It is good, but it also like means your opponent every other turn just doesn't even have to raise the tide to tax you with Static Collection Array. It's a weird card. Okay, so we get some Xeno training for some captured amber. Friendly guide comes down. So Matze on no amber right now. Quick draw up on 4. Deciding if it's worth using the lander? Probably not, but does get to archive here with the Ganymede Outpost, which is super good. Especially if you're trying to work towards that Mars Needs Amber play. But I think the thing with that is like, if Matze finds the infighting on the turn that he also plays all that big Untamed Burst, like, could be rough. But we'll just see what happens. Okay, fast turn into Starlines here for Matze. We did get a couple more blorbs coming down on that last turn. Got the Cheetah, I've got the Teresa, all the Starlines bots coming down here. Valmart doesn't really have anything to tax, but gets the effect anyways because the tide is high. Uses that to just take out the guard. So knowing that the belligerent guard is an important piece of creature control, decides to just kill it, gets one of those captured amber back, and see where it goes from here. So this does mean that there's a lot of elusive on the board, which makes these blorbs even less useful because you have to fight 2 of them to deal 1 damage to a creature. Elfbird is a really interesting card. So far, again, this is a very different game than games 1 and 2, so it's really kind of hard to call where it's at. But yeah, I think you're right that this is pretty big, except we've got the Ganymede. I think the Ganymede makes it really interesting. Blorb Hive too. You can kind of just keep going between these 2 houses and just really building. We do see the Equidon call here, so there's uncommon currency. So that makes it, again, a lot trickier to know what artifact to play if you're... Ooh. Decides to purge the Elfbird. So Quick Draw knows that's an important one for the stalling, like you said, in this matchup, so it doesn't want it on the board. Does give an amber there to Matze, but gets to check that uncommon currency having 2 amber pips on it. But now, yeah, I think this will be interesting to see what other artifacts Matze plays with that uncommon currency down. Yeah, Hive is Omni, so you can do it every turn. Okay, gonna keep Blorb in here. Again, this is one of those things where you kind of just, once you get to critical mass, it changes how you have to play on the other side because you have to prioritize creature control way more. But 1 infighting can clear a whole board of Blorbs. That's it. Going into Logos, does play the Hydro Catalog here, which is also going to be really interesting. Probably favors Guadalupe, though, just because we do have the double eddies in here, so all that archiving just makes them that much more effective in their taxing. We've got Bilge Warden and then the Novu coming down, so no amber and not stopping the key there. It's pretty big. So we got key 1 going to Quick Draw and a large board of Blorbs here. Okay, so maybe we were wrong. Maybe 9 chains was almost too much. Hard to say, but again, this was a pretty nice start of token generation for quick draw, but you know, that can happen. It's not over by any means. Quickdraw has to figure out how to start dealing with this board, especially since it's mostly elusive or just big creatures, and then there's going to be lots of archiving happening off this Hydro Cataloger. Yeah. I guess the question is, why play this in a match that's not against DT? Because otherwise your opponent always has to take change to raise the tide. Whereas now, yes, you can force them into awkward situations where there's nothing they can do, but also the other turns, you're just like, don't even have to worry about it because you know they're going to get the tide taken away. But I guess with Mecha Buoy, it is very good because you basically always get the Amber because you get to sequence them yourself. But the Mecha Buoy could get stolen by the uncommon currency. Okay, Quick Draw taking some time on this one, which is fine. They have not stopped to breathe very much in these games. Goes into Starlines. There's a rogue operation. Stealing one again. It's all that that card can do. Losing the Envoy and Ornate Talking Tray. Probably not too sad to see that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Gale, is it's like you can take away their agency every other turn, but you also take away them being forced to take chains to have agency. So it's a trade-off, but I just haven't played enough with it to really get a feel. And I think that's why Quick Draw brings a deck like this, because it asks your opponent a question. Okay, FOF Transponder comes down. That's really big with Blorb Hive because now you're going to be getting basically 3 Blorbs for 1 every time. Yeah, this is going to get crazy fast. Goes for nothing on the board except Blorbs. But does get more archives here. That archive's going to start getting huge as the Hydro Cataloger starts working for both of them. It's not quite enough for a key, right? We're at 8 Blorbs. Matze with the Untamed call, though. This could be the infighting. Infighting does hurt a little bit because you lose a decent amount of your board. Yeah, so Matze kind of put stuff in an order that was not optimal for the infighting, but this is pretty big to slow down that potential key cheat happening on Quick Draw's side. Let's see if he's got any follow-up to it. So this is where, same thing, like now you have to take the tide yourself so you get all the value off of your cards that reference the tide. Whereas if you just hadn't played the Tide Warp, you maybe wouldn't have had to do that because your opponent didn't really feel incentivized to take the tide anytime during those turns. But very large burst there coming in. Lots of creature control happening as well. So not a bad turn at all for Matze. Well, let's see if it's enough. We have not seen... Oh, Trade Secrets is gone. So that must have been one of those Blorbs just killed. That's unfortunate. Could have the closed door negotiation now. Stormstrong, welcome in. We are almost done. They're playing fast. We're on game 3 here. Guadalupe has taken games 1 and 2, and so it got 9 chains in this game. Matze taking it, and we're here 1 key 3 amber to 0 keys 10 amber. And Quick Draw having to decide what to do next. This is a board of pretty big creatures here. And lots of logos still to be seen on Matze's side. Hard to know what's getting archived here because it is going to be random. But Quick Draw sitting on a large archives himself. All right, so some time thinking on this one again. I think this is kind of that turning point where chains are almost gone for Matze. Actually, they would have been gone if or it would have been on one chain left, but he had to take the tide manually to get the value off those deep water Gruins, or really to keep Quickdraw from getting value off of them the way that the deep waters work. Mars Needs Amber is yet to come, but you don't have nearly as big of a board to get the value on, right? You could fight with your one Blorb. I wonder if Matze is actually going to try to keep the board a little bit smaller. Ooh, Puzzling Trinket actually makes the Mars Needs Amber so much better because you can now just ping a damage with each of those Mars Needs Ambers with their Amber Pips. Blacksmith coming back down, going to get Blorb Hived, most likely. Auction off, taken out the SV3 Lander. Blorb Hive may have a chance. Infighting and Thin the Herd are both gone. We do have, I think, one more Technobabble on Matze's side. But really, pressuring with Amber is just about as good. We'll probably see a lot of that Logos come down now for Matze to try and slow down this key. Interesting. Quickdraw takes the Tide Warp. Someone want to explain that one to me? So now I guess it's automatically changing at the start of your turn instead of at the start of your opponent's. I guess that makes sense. That does. But you still can't. Yeah, I guess you can take the tide with the chains now. Yeah, so it. Well, so now it gets out of what you were saying, Captain Gale, with those like auto. You can't manually lower the tide, but now with the tide warp on your side, you can basically make sure you always have the tide on your side, even if it costs you a lot of chains. Yeah, he could have just left it there though, right? Like I was just curious that he used it there, but I think yeah, it does make sense. Tempt Matze to take the tide. I would love if that happened, because that would be his entire turn. But it'd just be a slap in the face. It'd be great. Matze in the think tank now. What do we have left? Oh man, this bug on TCO is just the worst. Like, there's been a lot of things throughout the ages, but whatever triggered that to start happening is been brutal. Like, I know what causes it in game, but I don't know what made it so that started happening in game. Yes, there is a time limit. Sorry, I am in front of the time limit. I can move. Hasn't been an issue in these matches or in these games. All right, Matze going into Logos, doing the archiving with the the Novu Archaeologist. Archives the infighting. Okay, I think that makes sense. Final analysis here. Interesting. Quickdraw keeping the token because he's got the FOF transponder there. Matze may be digging for one of those eddies. Maybe he hasn't found one yet, which would be kind of surprising. They're both in the bottom three of the deck. That would be rough. But maybe one is in the archives and just wants to try and find the other one so he doesn't have to pull the archives here. He wants to stop this key. Oh. Yeah. Darn. One of the unfortunate things of TCO. Yeah, they get destroyed and then you both draw, and so it flipped the deck, and so don't get to see what's in there. We do see the Data Forge getting played for the Amber, which is interesting because this is fixed for punctuated equilibrium. It will actually tell you all the cards that were discarded now, but something like this still doesn't quite tell you. Tokens are a little bit different. We do see the Mechabui coming down. There's an Eddy. Gonna stop that key because we already have 3 in the archives, adding a 4th with Eddy. Losing the tide there, though, giving Quickdraw an amber from the Tide Warp from the Mecha Buoy, so that's going to be a little bit rough. Maybe he shouldn't have played this here, right? Except that does get him to check. But now this is basically amber for a quick draw every turn, right? I think Matze's in a rough spot. Yeah. And then Matze will gain an amber every other turn-ish, unless quick draw starts taking the tide more. But we saw the key cheat go now, so what does Matze really have left? We still have the Chelonia we haven't seen, but a lot of your other untamed creatures are gone. Witch of the Dawn could come out and grab one of those Chelonias. So it still could be a really big burst turn for Matze next turn, but I think it needs to happen pretty soon. Quick draw with these massive hands, massive archives is just going to start having really big aggressive turns here. Belligerent Guard comes down, going to be able to take out that Eddy. Yep. And then probably see just some capturing off the Puzzling Trinket to stop this. Oh, or a Trade Secrets for only stealing 2. That's not too bad. But it does stop the key on Matze's side and gets quick draw up to 10. No longer taxed because the Eddy is gone. Blorb Hive, making more Blorbs. Yeah, I think quick draw is pretty happy with this spot here. So Matze doesn't have the Submersive anymore. Does have one more Eddy sneaking somewhere. Doesn't have the Volmart anymore. So actually running a little bit low on the Amber control side for this 10 Amber total. But any creatures you play here too are in great risk of getting Mars Needs Ambered, which is a verb. Yeah. Yeah, you got it good. Tough spot for Matze. Oh yeah, Rebel too. Emanade. I like that better. Yeah, that's true, Captain Gale. That is one of those pieces of the hidden information that we didn't get, but there's a good chance at least one of them has been sitting in archives for a while. Probably that Cursed Relic too, because otherwise it would have been discarded with the Trade Secrets here. Be pretty nice for quick draw if that got randomly archived. That's it going Star Alliance. Technobabble going to stun some of the Blorbs. That helps a little bit with Mars Needs Amber. Less of them able to fight. Discarding the Shield You later though, so yeah, just not going to give the opportunity to get any damage on anything. The stunner on a Blorb. Gets back up to 6. Let's see if he's got anything else though. Is going to flip the deck here. Not that I don't know if that's a huge deal, except it does mean that a few of these... Well, it actually is going to turn off the Witch. So now the Witch doesn't have any targets. Can't get those Chelonias back for that bigger burst. Discard Static Collection Array. Yeah, that one probably makes sense. Unfortunately, I think Mecha Buoy maybe could have been the discard too, but it's tough when it gets you to check, right? You do want to keep pressuring. Quick draw though. Getting the key already at 5 Amber. Has the guaranteed amber off the Mecha Buoy. Not sure what you do here. You need to get at least one amber, but I think if you can just pressure the blorbs as well, you kind of... Well, I guess you want to stop it. Stop the key here too. But with the puzzling trinket, that's not too tough. I guess we know Matze does have the infighting archived, so going wide doesn't help you too much. We get our first steal 2 off of the rogue operations, discarding Ornate Talking Trait and Photon Blast. And our Starline's turn here. Friendly Guide coming down. Crash Muldoon. Just gonna get a Reap. Yeah, this is a pretty tough spot for Matze. Going up to 8. Guthrak coming down as well. Again, the archives have just been huge. The hands have been really big for Quick Draw here, so kind of has all of his options. Recorded history, gonna put that relic probably right back into the archives here. Pretty handy. Closed Door and Mesmerist. Huh. Somehow doesn't even have it. Maybe it's one of these blorbs. Get the blorb hive going here. Make a few more. Destroys the friendly guide. Okay. Does not like 3-headed mushrooms, I guess. I don't know. I mean, compared to a blorb, I can't blame him. Deciding what to Ganymede outpost here, maybe? Decides not to Ganymede outpost. Okay. Likes the board as it is. Here comes the infighting. Take out a good chunk of those blorbs. Does not really deal with any of the other stuff. Ooh, Thin the Herd will. And that finally gets rid of the FOF transponder. But Untamed. Gonna have a pretty hard time stopping the key. We need the Murmook plus some buff. That is absolutely right, Snoopy. Geez, there it is. It's match going to Quick Draw. Winning, as Snoopy said, with the WoE deck, but the DT deck is the one that moves on, although he could pick a new DT deck, or a new deck for next round, because that's what we're doing. 2 Eddies in hand. Yeah, the Eddies were all coming up late for Matze. That did not help. Let me get my... Just so we have it in here. Quick Draw winning this 2-1, but good games. That last one was rough. Man, I'm always curious to ask after the games, like what people thought about the chain bid. I didn't feel, I mean, obviously I was thinking that was almost not enough. It's hard to say though with the start that Quick Draw had. Yep, take care, Snoopy. We'll be closing up shop here pretty soon. I need to get these copied over. Yeah, sure thing. Thank you all for hanging out. Get to bed now. We'll be seeing you all a lot more the rest of this week. We got a lot of games to go. Yeah, probably afraid of the Mars Needs Amber here. Yeah, being able to have lots of token generation right away was a really big deal for Quick Draw. But I also think like the artifact situation was so different in this game than it was in the other ones, even for what Matze had early too. So it was just kind of a scenario we didn't get to see in the other 2 games, and so it was hard. It's hard to know how to play that. But maybe Tide Warp not right to play in this matchup. Like that might be one of the only things that's like maybe that was the only like that could have been enough to sway the game, but it's really hard to say. Yeah, Quick Draw had him archived basically all game. Makes sense. I bet that's what he was getting with the Ganymede pretty early. Oh, really? Only called Mars turn 1 and then never again. Just went back and forth between the other two. So really didn't even, I don't know that he even needed to get rid of the Ulfbert. So he just had a bunch of Mars archived. All right. I think that is going to be it for me for a couple hours. I might be back to do my KTL match, which was not a Final Refrain thing, so I'll stop advertising. But yeah, thanks to both of these players. Matze, really tough. It's tough. This tournament is always so brutal. Just so many good players going down. In this round 1 is always hard to watch, but as long as we get good games, I think that's what we're all here for. So all right, that'll be it for me. Thank you all so much for hanging out and watching and cheering on this awesome tournament format we're doing. Really excited for more, but we are going to call it here until the next one. Right now, the next match that is scheduled, I don't think is till. I don't think there's one tomorrow. I think there's a couple on Wednesday and a couple on Thursday. So be on the lookout for those, but there might be some popping up sooner as people get scheduled. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to call it there. So we will see you all next time on the Final Refrain. Take care, everyone.